Um, Welcome. um, I want to review Stranger Things Season 2. I never did get around to reviewing Season 1, but it wouldn't have been a very long review. All I really have to say about it, I mean, I could sum it up in one line, which is, it had likable, not particularly interesting, but likable characters, and, a delightful surprise of being actually full of supernatural stuff, like, or paranormal stuff, or both. um, I don't know the difference, if there is one, because really, when I saw the trailer for the first season, I was like, that could be good, but it could be just that this mom who lost her kid is like hallucinating these things, and it could be like one of those like artsy movies that's like, or series that's like, oh yeah, it's all in her head and we're exploring her character and her psyche and blah blah blah, when there's really not that much going on. It's just her hallucinating because she's so heartbroken from the loss of her child. So I was like, it could be good if like actual stuff is going on, actual supernatural stuff, because I can never get enough of that. But it could also be bad. So I actually watched it when it first came out, like the night it came out, and it was a weekend, I think. But still, I shouldn't have done it, because I ended up staying up all night and watching all the episodes and being absolutely delighted, because every episode made it more clear that like actual supernatural stuff was going on, which is exactly what I wanted. Uh, so, and the characters, like I said, were likable, just not very interesting. So, given that, it's not surprising how the second season was not as good. And I kind of always thought that it wouldn't be. I mean, I guess it depends on who you ask. Some people thought it was as good, probably. But some people don't. And I don't think it was as good because, well, like I said, I kind of thought after the first season, I was like, yeah, the next season is not going to be as good because we kind of already know what's going on. And there's not a lot of you can do with these characters. They're not like super complex characters. They're nice people who I like, but there's not a lot of development you can make happen with any of the characters except for Steve. And that's what I thought after the first season, and that's how it ended up going. Because Steve, started out as a jerk, and then he kind of got a little better by the end of the first season. And so the second season could, I thought, definitely kind of develop him further and make him even nicer, make him an even better person. And that's what happened. So that's I think why Steve is probably like a lot of people's favorite character in the second season, because he developed. And people like character development, whether they know it or not. And like it helped a lot that there was like this anti-Steve who was a lot worse than Steve ever was. So like putting Steve next to him, I mean, because they're kind of the same character, except one of them's way worse. So you put them side by side, and I'm talking about what the redhead's stepbrother. I can't remember his name. But he's like, yeah, he tries to run him down with his car, and then he beats up Steve. That guy. He makes Steve look way better, right? So that helps a lot with Steve being my favorite in the second season and a lot of people's favorites. The other characters they didn't really do anything with. It was kind of just like they didn't even have a lot to do. They kind of hardly noticed they were there. Like the main characters from the first season kind of seemed like they just sort of faded into the background. The new characters they brought in were the ones that actually like popped and were like the interesting ones, and kind of like they were like the new main characters, and they really were like they kind of took the place of the main characters from the first season, at least in my heart. So like they had what new characters? They had the guy that Jonathan's mom was dating, who was played by Sean Astin, Sam Gamgee, and he was super nice. And I think that's what this series is good at. Maybe they should, like, I was kind of against the idea of them just like moving to new characters every season, but I think that's what it's good at, is introducing new characters who are like surprisingly nice, like, and delightfully surprisingly nice. It's like it's just a delightful surprise how nice the new characters are. Like the redhead, Max. I really liked her too. Cause I mean, like she wasn't like all that nice. She was nice though, and she was and there was more going on there than it might have seemed at first. And I really liked her hair, and I liked her clothes, and I liked that she was like a tomboy, like a real tomboy. Like a lot of times they'll have tomboys in movies like this, or like in series like this, who aren't really tomboys. They are pretty well put together and pretty and feminine. And this, I mean, she was feminine, but like also, it's just that I was a tomboy growing up, and I had hair like that. And so I love it. And I dressed like that, and I love that. And so, yeah, I really liked her, except for she was kind of like a little too perfect, a little over the top, a little like she was so good at video games and skateboarding and everything. Like she was just a little too cool for my tastes. But I still really liked her. I just think it's kind of unrealistic when they have these characters who are like super like just unrealistically cool. Like she knew that they were watching her, and that's why she threw that paper in the trash. And it's like, yeah, so apparently she knows everything. It's just a little unrealistic, and it's attractive to some people when things are like unrealistically cool, but it's not to me, or when characters are unrealistically cool. So what were the other new characters? So the redhead stepbrother, I don't know, was his name Charlie? It seems like his name was Charlie. I don't know, I can't remember, I'm sorry. But like even he, like, I didn't like him, but he did, like, I was like really interested. I was like, when he met Nancy's mom, and they were like, totally into each other, and I was like, I love this. I could watch a whole season of this. I'm like super into like, well, and I know like it's not, it wouldn't be like an ethical relationship because she's married, but you could pretend that wasn't real. You could pretend she wasn't married. I'm super into age gap relationships. I think they're super hot, and that's what this was. It was an age gap relationship, or the start of one, I think. So, yeah, and then so, yeah. What else? Were there any other new characters? I feel like that was it. They just had like Sam Gamgee, the redhead, and the redhead's brother, Charlie or Chuck. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, I feel like that was everything. And with the other characters, we just didn't get to explore them that much. Like, not that much happened. Like, we didn't get to explore Eleven's powers. I thought from the first season, and I guess I was just wrong, but I thought her powers were like somehow very much connected to the Upside Down. Like her mind was kind of like moving through the Upside Down in order to get to other people in the real world, or like in our world, or in the Upside Down. I thought that's how like her mind was traveling. It was traveling through the Upside Down through to get through space and time, kind of. And I thought they were going to explore that a bit more and have her actually and actually show her developing her powers and getting stronger, but they kind of just skipped over that and showed that her powers were stronger. Like, she could just like blindfold herself and in front of a TV and see Mike, and that was pretty easy for her now. Like, she didn't have to get into the sensory deprivation tank anymore. She could just do it. So they kind of just skipped over that, and then they had her go on her journey finding her mom and her lost sister. It didn't feel like she actually changed that much. Like, I thought maybe she was going to be able to help her mom get better, and then that would be an interesting twist to have like her actual mom come into the picture when she's kind of already formed like this father-daughter relationship with the sheriff. But that didn't happen, and I was waiting for her to actually reach out and see if her her other father figure, Papa, I can't remember his name either, but the white-haired guy, I wondered if she was gonna like reach out and try to find him, but that never happened. I mean, her journey did kind of make me cry. It made me sad, and kind of happy too that she was in a much, like, she's still in a bad place, but she's in a better place now. And she had to overcome like a whole lifetime of abuse, and she's still getting over it. And so it did make me tear up a little bit, but it's still like not that much actually happened with her. And I think it's because there's not that much there to actually happen. I thought we were going to explore Will's character more, and we did a little. I mean, he was definitely on screen a lot more, but he was also like possessed a lot of the time, so we didn't actually get to know him that well, except through the stories other people told about how nice he was, which, I mean, I believe it. He seems like a super nice character, and so I was totally rooting for him to like win against the monster possessing him. And I thought we were going to like explore his ability to go into the Upside Down and like transfer, like, to like jump back and forth, and I thought maybe he was going to develop that power, but that never really happened. It was just kind of like it happened when it happened, and when it didn't it didn't. But yeah, I wonder if he can still jump back and forth now that the portal is closed, or the door, or whatever. That would be cool. But probably not. But we didn't really get to explore that, and he didn't get to develop that power, and I thought that would have been really cool. And poor Will, by the way. I felt really bad for him this season. Especially, when Nancy stabbed him with the hot poker, that seemed like overkill. And she stabbed him in the torso, too. She could have killed him. And because she's stabbing the real him, not the thing that's possessing him. So, just, that seemed very irresponsible of her. Poor Will. Oh, I also thought he might rescue Eleven from the Upside Down, because, everyone thought she was trapped in the Upside Down after season 1. But for some reason, she just, never left this world, or she left it for just a minute and then she came right back. But the Demogorgon died, I guess. I don't know. I guess I'm confused, because at the end of the first season, it kind of looked like she was like disintegrating it by sending it back to the Upside Down. That's kind of what it looked like. And so it kind of seemed like she was going to be like trapped in the Upside Down with it, in kind of like an eternal battle, which would have been kind of cool. But I guess it's better that it turned out the way that it did. It was better for her. She, ended up just trying to lay low in our world, and she was taken in by the sheriff, and he's a really terrible dad. And I don't like him anymore after that. I mean, I liked him in the first season pretty well, and I don't like him anymore after this, because like, I don't know what he's thinking, being such a jerk and like being like physical and like violent, and like he never actually hurt 11, but he's kind of like slamming his hand around on furniture, and and that is scary for a young girl, especially one who's been abused before, like her previous father figure. So that was just really mean of him. And like it was really, really mean of him to be like, I could just, with one call, I could send you back and let them start experimenting on you again. And like, what the heck, man? That is so evil. That is really, really evil. So I really didn't like him in this season. And I know that he's like stressed out and like he doesn't want to lose her because he lost his first daughter and blah, blah, blah. But I just don't see how that translates to being such an evil guy. He's being really, really mean, to say the least. So, yeah, I'm kind of over that character. And what else? Yeah, all the main characters just seem to be tying up threads from season 1, basically. Like, 11 and Mike finally got together, and that was kind of like their big thing for this season, was getting back together. And Nancy and Jonathan finally got together, and that was like their big thing basically for this. Like their big character development was just like getting together basically. And the thing is, I don't even like Nancy and Jonathan together in season 2 because they don't have the same insight into each other that they did in the first season. Like in the first season, the reason they went well together was because they saw each other, They saw, like, Nancy saw how sad and lonely and, hurting Jonathan was, and she was compassionate to that. And Jonathan saw, he had that whole speech in the woods about how she's, like, trying to rebel by doing what everybody else does to rebel. So, like, they had, like, this insight into each other that made them, and actually, it was more, I felt like Jonathan had more insight into Nancy, and I liked Jonathan better. So, I was kind of like okay with them not getting together at the end of season 1 because I was like, you're too good for her, Jonathan. Which is kind of mean. And I actually, I did kind of want them to be together. I did, and I'm glad that they are. It's just that this season they didn't have that same connection. So it's kind of like whatever, like they didn't, it had to be the reporter had to be the one to tell them, you have daddy issues and you're harder to read, but like he read her too, and then he's like, and you're totally in love, and he told them, like, he was the one who had insight into them. They didn't seem to have any insight into each other, so he kind of like took that away from them, and that's why I didn't like that character. Yeah, so they didn't develop that much as characters. They just kind of got together, and that was like their thing for this season 2. Will's mom, I can't remember, what is her name? Joyce. And the sheriff, like, they're just prolonging their, like, will they, won't they relationship, like, needlessly, because I feel like everybody knows that they will, right? I'm, like, 99.9% sure that everybody knows that they will. And they're just prolonging this thing, with her getting with someone else and stuff. So I just didn't think that was a really, like, constructive way to take their characters. And it was just kind of continuing, again, like the threads from the first season in sort of like a really kind of like downplayed way. Like in the background, they were, continuing these threads for these characters that they started in season 1, but like in the background, and not in, they didn't take it in, and they didn't take the characters' relationships with each other in any new or exciting ways, and they kind of even made them less interesting, like the writers, whoever wrote this show, like the Duffer Brothers, right, for the most part. They kind of made the characters' relationships with each other, which, was another great part of the first season. Is that the characters were really nice to each other, and they had good relationships with each other. Like, Mike and Eleven, it's so sweet how he still thought she was pretty even without her hair, and she, that he told her that, and she, it made her feel good. And so, yeah, the relationships between the characters was a big thing, a big reason why I loved season 1, because they were so nice to each other. That was also apparent in Jonathan and Will's relationship in the first season, the way the way Jonathan told Will some really sage advice and told him he shouldn't like things just because people say that he should. And they tried to do that again in this season, but that's why, it's just another example of why I think the writers in season 2 didn't put that much thought into the characters' relationships this time around, or the old characters' relationships, because they kind of tried to just to kind of like clone that talk from season 1 between Jonathan and Will, and this time though Jonathan gave Will some kind of weird advice, because I'm not sure what the point of it was, since it turned out that Jonathan was talking about normal people like Sam Gamgee, and then it turned out Sam Gamgee did end up, doing some pretty awesome stuff, whereas Jonathan was kind of trying to say that no normal person ever did anything interesting or admirable. So it just kind of seemed like the conversation between Jonathan and Will this time was not all that inspirational or true or helpful to Will, and kind of just didn't make sense. So I don't even know why it was in there, and it kind of just seemed like the writers didn't really think that hard about it or try to make it like it was in the first season, as good as it was. Yeah, so that, I just feel like their relationships with each other didn't really go anywhere, or, it was kind of just like a background thing. And so aside from like the characters, there's the plot, right? That's another part of a story. And like the plot in the first season, like, wasn't all that original or anything. It was just surprisingly, delightfully supernatural, right? Like I was saying before. And the same is true this season, except it's not surprisingly, delightfully supernatural anymore, because we already know it's supernatural. And they kind of just, it felt like to me, and probably, I don't know, I might be the only one who feels that way, but I feel like they just kind of did season 1 again, like the plot of season 1, just, slightly different. Except for episode 7, which is why I actually liked it, because it felt like something different, like they were doing something different with the show now. Like, new season, you should do something new, And so I actually liked episode 7 until 11 did the quote-unquote right thing and spared that guy's life. But, like, why? I mean, I know he had kids, but I think that 11 should be smart enough to see that they'd be better off without him, because he's clearly an evil guy. I mean, come on. I mean, it's just like, she just thought it was so clear-cut that, like, he has kids, so therefore I can't kill him. Whereas, are you sure? Are you sure it's really the right thing to do to spare him? I don't know. They, like, didn't explore that at all. It was just the cliche do the right thing kind of hero choice of sparing your enemies and blah, 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 So I actually liked I actually liked episode 7 up until the end. The rest of the season, like I said, just kind of seemed like the first season again, just slightly different, and that makes the first season seem less special. So that makes season 2 seem kind of like a downer, because it makes season 1 less special. Like the Gorgons, the Demodogs, and the Demogorgons. The Demogorgon from season 1 is not as special now, because they had the Demodogs this time. It's because there were like a bunch of them, and 11 killed a bunch of them this time. And I know that they were like smaller, but the thing about, it's hard because in sequels, you have to kind of, it's gonna end up making the first one seem a little less special no matter what you do. And I knew that going in. We saw like the giant spider monster or like octopus monster, I'm not sure. And I was like, okay, so there's like a bigger monster in the Upside Down than the Demogorgon. And that's going to make the Demogorgon from the first season seem less special, less dangerous. Like in the first season, it seemed so big and powerful and dangerous, and it was special, right? And I knew, with this big spider monster, the Demogorgon from season 1 is going to seem less special now. But, at least the spider monster is kind of different, so I can live with it. But then they had like a bunch of Demodogs, which are basically the same thing as a Demogorgon, just like slightly smaller, and they walk on all fours. And 11 killed a bunch of them, so it just didn't seem like her struggle with the Demogorgon from season 1 was that big of a deal anymore, right? Because now she can kill like a whole bunch of those, basically. So it just made the Demogorgon seem a lot less special. And then we didn't even get to see the big spider monster. So, like, yeah, just like I said, it just seems like season 2 was season 1, just slightly different. And so that's another reason it wasn't as good. Oh, and then just one more thing, like this is something I noticed in the first season, is that people don't eat a lot in this show. And so it's like, I was like, why aren't they eating very much? Like, don't they know that they need to eat more? 11 definitely needs to eat more because she's like exerting herself a lot, and she never seems to eat enough. And so and I was like, are they, they must believe that you have to like starve yourself in order to be a healthy weight. Like whoever wrote this show, and that was confirmed in this season because they kept like reiterating like, I'm going to eat candy and get fat, and I'm going to eat a lot and get fat. And so I just think that really confirms that they have like this mindset of like, I have to starve myself to be a healthy weight. And so they need freely. Sorry, that's so stupid. It's like saying they need Jesus, but they need freely, the banana girl. Because you don't need to starve yourself to be a healthy weight, but they clearly think that they do, and that shows in the show. You just need to eat healthy vegan food, and you can eat as much as you want. You don't have to starve yourself. And so they're kind of sending out this like really bad starvation message, and that I kind of noticed in the first season, and now it's just confirmed. I feel like because they kept saying stuff like, "I'm gonna get fat," blah 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 blah. So. And that's pretty much all I have to say about season 2. It was okay, and I'm looking forward to season 3, and I expect it to also be okay, but I don't know if they can like ever make it as good as like the first season was again. All right, but let me know what you think. If you think the third season will be as good as the first season again, or not. All right, let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you for watching.